Hello everyone, good evening. Today is 28th of December and welcome to Idea, that is in-depth editorial analysis discussion. So guys, in this particular video, we are going to pick best of the editorials that have been published in the different newspapers today, and we are going to discuss these particular editorials with respect to the UPSC examination. In these editorial discussions, we are going to focus on content enrichment, which is very much important for UPSC examination. Secondly, we are also going to learn the art of linking the contemporary affairs, the current affairs, with the statics of GS paper number 1, 2, 3 and 4. Now, all these particular editorials, guys, will also be complemented with detailed background, structured explanations, the art of exam presentation and multidimensionality will also be focused. Now, starting up, so guys, in the today's session, we are going to cover the four different newspaper sources and their four editorials will be taken. The first editorial is about the Uniform Civil Code, reframe the debates. Now, this article will be important for the GS paper number 2, features of Indian Constitution, and even in GS paper number 2, fine, in the GS paper number 2, social justice also this article will be important. Now, article is taken from the Hindustan Times. Second article, focus on Africa and the heart of the global south. This article will be important for GS paper number 2, bilateral regional groupings involving India. Article is taken from Hindu newspaper. Then third article is talking about a grassroots approach to pursue sustainable developmental goals. This article will be important for government policies and interventions aimed at development. This article is taken from Business Line newspaper, the Hindu Business Line. Then the suitable officer. This article talks about that how the role of civil servants need to be enhanced, need to be changed in order to ensure ease of doing business. This article will be important for GS paper number 2, role of civil services in a democracy, and the article is taken from Indian Express newspaper. Now guys, let's start with the discussion, and meanwhile, a very good evening to all of you who have joined the session. Now, before moving, I would like to briefly tell you about the Unacademy UPSC CSE GS courses, where you get an option to get educated with the India's top educators. And what are other reasons to join Unacademy? Here you get widest choice of educators, flexibility to change your course, unlimited views on the lectures. You don't have any such view limitation, dedicated doubt solving sessions, printed comprehensive notes are given, end-to-end preparation. All the stages of exam will be taken care of. Live mentorship and daily answer writing practice is given. Now, the new offer of Unacademy is going on, where Unacademy is offering deep discounts. Here, 18-month subscription is being given at just 52,000 rupees, where around 23% discount is being offered. In this particular way, all these offers you can avail. Now, you can avail these offers by using the code Sahil29. By using the code Sahil29, you can avail the offers. Now, the last revision batch for prelims 2023, the Raftar batch, is also going to start from January 5, where you get an opportunity to get trained by the best pool of India's educators. Fine. Then the Raftar, which is a English batch, that is a bilingual batch, and then the second is the Aramba batch, fine, which is for prelims 2024. Fine. So you can enroll in both of these batches. Aramba batch will be starting from January 12, and all these courses can be availed at 0% EMI. You can just call at this number, and you will be guided with respect to the bare minimum formalities that are there. Now, starting up with the first editorial for today, which is taken from Hindustan Times. The editorial reads Uniform Civil Code. The editorial reads Uniform Civil Code, reframe the debate. Okay. Now guys, taking up this particular editorial. So basically, before going in the editorial, we are going to briefly discuss, before going in this particular editorial, we are briefly going to discuss about what the UCC is and why this particular debate has now been ignited. Okay. So first of all, guys, what has happened recently, a private members bill has been introduced in the just concluded winter session of Lok Sabha. And this particular private member bill has raised the matter of UCC. Then at the same time, in multiple of the state assemblies, there are the committees that have been formed to see the matter of UCC's implementation. So because of that particular thing, UCC has become quite an important topic. Now, first of all, let's briefly discuss what we understand by UCC, Uniform Civil Code. So basically guys, for Uniform Civil Code, now understand that there are the criminal matters, the matters pertaining to, for example, rape, murder, dacoity. These are the criminal matters. And then there are civil matters. Civil matters. Now, in the matters of the criminal laws, we have the uniform law system. For example, Indian Penal Code is there, Criminal Procedure Code is there. Okay. Now, for example, Indian Penal Code and Criminal Procedure Code, they deals with the criminal offences in India, and they are universally applicable on all of the people. Doesn't matters at what your religion is. You are Hindu, you are Muslim, they are applicable on all. Then the second are civil matters. Now, in civil matters, majorly the matters such as marriage, divorce, inheritance, and adoption are concerned. So, for these civil matters, right now we don't have uniform law. Right now, different communities can have their different law systems dealing with these four matters. Now, uniform civil code provide that no, such multiplicity should not be there in the civil matters. There needs to be one law system, there needs to be one law system which will deal with all the civil matters. In the Constitution of India, we have article number 44. Article number 44 of the DPSP, Directive Principles of State Policy, which specifically has provided that the state shall endeavor, state should make an attempt to secure a uniform civil code for all the citizens throughout the territory of India. Now, let's see little bit about the history of uniform civil code. So basically, guys, when Britishers came in India, now Britishers in the starting time, they want to consolidate themselves in India. Now Britishers simply cannot consolidate if they interfere too much. If they interfere too much in the culture of people, if they interfere too much in the laws of the native people, so they basically tried to keep themselves aloof so that they don't disturb the social milieu of India. So therefore, what happened? Basically, they passed the regulation to manage the personal affairs as per the personal beliefs of the people. For example, Hindu people, they have certain beliefs, Islamic people, they have certain beliefs. So as per their beliefs, they were allowed to manage their own personal laws. In this particular direction, what happened? Britishers even took the advice of the powerful members within the different committees. For example, within Hindus, Muslims, and other communities, they took the advice of the influential people, and as per their advices, their opinions got enforced, and personal laws for all the religions came in existence. Now, because of this particular thing, guys, what has happened? Many rigidities also came in system. Because of that, many stubbornness also came in system. Many of exploitations that were being carried on women as a part of superstitious beliefs, these things also enter in the personal law system. And therefore, guys, the Hindu Islamic personal laws, they became rigid. Over the period, these particular things, it was realized that we need to change it. And for that particular thing, the idea of uniform civil code was given. Idea of uniform civil code was given. Now, guys, understand this particular thing, that now the communities are living as per these personal laws for so many of years. So in just one go, you cannot change that belief system, that law system, personal law system in which people are living. So therefore, when Indian Constitution was framed, at that point of a time, framers of Indian Constitution decided that uniform civil code will be an aspirational goal, that is the goal that is to be achieved, but will not implement it today, and we will leave it to the wisdom of the government, that when they feel that Indian society is ready to accept such a big law, it will be applied. So therefore, Article 44 was added in DPSP, Directive Principle of State Policy. You already know that Directive Principle of State Policy are not justiciable. Whenever the government feel that, okay, now they can do that, they can implement it. So Article 44 came in existence, which talks about UCCs to be implemented when it is possible. Okay, so gradually the state has to accept it. Now, guys, basically there is in limited part, this thing has also happened also. For example, in 1950s, Hindu code bills were introduced. And when we talk about the Hindu code bills, they try to codify the Hindu personal laws. Okay, we got Hindu Succession Act. Okay, Hindu Succession Inheritance Act we got. So Hindu personal laws have come, which have tried to codify the Hindu personal laws. Women got the right to inherit property, which was earlier not given. But still, the process is not complete. Still, there are certain gaps, there are certain limitations that are to be addressed. Now, guys, basically, when we talk about the UCC Uniform Civil Code, there are arguments that come in favor that yes, UCC is desirable, it should be brought, and then arguments come against, and these arguments which are in against, they say this particular thing that no, UCC should not be implemented. So we have arguments on both of the sides. Now first of all, let's talk about the argument for UCC. So the first argument that comes, it flows from the nature of Indian state, which is a secular state. It is being said this particular thing that guys, when we talk about the Indian constitution, we are a secular state and equality has to be given to all of the people. On the basis of religion, we cannot carry the differential treatment. So on the basis of religion, creed, okay, and even ethnicity, different treatment should not be allowed. So therefore, uniform civil code is the need of an hour. The next thing that comes here is that guys, that we have the criminal law, contract law, which are uniformly applicable on all. So going by this particular logic, now the time has come that even in the personal laws, uniformity needs to be there. The personal laws are being dictated by the religion, but now in the modern liberal welfarist state, religion might not be given, should not be given the authority to dictate these particular matters. These matters should be dealt independently on the basis of the liberal democratic traditions. The next thing that comes, basically the UCC will provide protection to vulnerable sections. For example, women, okay, minorities. Now, guys, understand this thing. For example, when we talk about the instant triple talaq. Now, instant triple talaq flew out of, was a matter of the personal law of the Muslim community, and it flew out of religious justifications that were given. But we found this particular thing that women were the worst sufferers of the instant triple talaq. So there are many laws, many personal beliefs that are there which are discriminatory to women, or they are discriminatory to vulnerable section of society. So therefore it will be addressed. Moreover, it will also promote national unity. Fine. Then moving on, when we talk about guys the uniform civil code, it is also desirable because it will help in simplifying the complex laws. The complex laws around marriage, ceremonies, fine, which have often become very complicated, and even they are often coming in conflict with the common law of India, that will be solved. For example, guys, let me give you one brief example. We have a Prevention of Child Marriage Act. Now, under the Prevention of Child Marriage Act, it's very clearly provided that the girls cannot be married before the age of 18 and boys cannot be married before the age of 21. But at the same time, Islamic personal laws provide this particular thing that the women can marry once she attains the puberty. Women can marry once she attains puberty, and puberty is attained at the age of 14 to 15 years. And this particular thing has also been upheld by judiciary that yes, they can marry once they are attaining puberty. Now this particular matter of personal civil law is directly going against the Prevention of Child Marriage Act's provisions. So therefore we need to change it. Okay, it will resolve the complexity. Next thing that comes here is that if UCC is enacted, okay, if UCC is enacted, all the personal laws will cease to exist. It will do away with the gender biases that are there. Now, then there we have arguments against uniform civil code. Why uniform civil code should not be implemented? In this particular direction, the first reason that comes here is the fear of Hinduization. Fears of Hinduization. Now, what we understand, guys, by Hinduization? Basically, in past also this problem has come that whenever we will try to implement UCC, there will be a perception that will be built that the cultural hegemony is being imposed. People will assume this particular thing that actually in the name of bringing uniformity, Hindu laws are being imposed on the people. So it will be seen as a cultural hegemony, and but this particular thing will make minority feel that they are being subjugated. This is something that will come. Is it clear or not? Minority will think that they are being forcefully assimilated to the norms of the dominant religion, and we see that right now there are even so much of the distrust that is there into the community that it might bring its own challenges. The next issue that comes in this direction is that, guys, basically we have the constitutional provisions, fundamental right, article number 25. Article 25 basically promises the freedom to practice and propagate any religion. Okay, then article 14 is there. Okay, now you see this particular thing that there is equality. First of all, everybody is treated to be equal, and everybody is allowed to propagate and practice their own religion, and many of the personal laws are actually the extension of religion. So article 25 might get violated by this particular thing. Then next thing is that, guys, that when we talk about India, always we talk about that diversity and plurality is a strength of in India. Now plurality has already codified, the plurality in already codified civil and criminal laws is there. Okay, now understand this particular thing, that when we talk about plurality, okay, it has to be preserved, it has to be respected. We cannot impose the idea of one nation one law on all people. Then next comes the customary laws. Many tribal people, many religion, both majority and minority, they have been given right. It is a tradition that we have respected their customary laws, particularly tribal. They, many of them have very different kind of a laws. So if uniform civil code will be applied, they will also not be able to practice. Tribal people will not be able to practice their own unique uh, personal laws. Now, after that, basically, whenever the matters of personal law are, whenever the matter of uniform civil code is brought, it is given that it is important for the women rights. The argument against UCC, whenever you resist that no UCC should not be brought, it is said that you are not allowing to bring the UCC because the cultural exclusivity over the rights of the women, domination over the right of the women is to be maintained. So therefore, you don't allow the UCC. Now guys, understand that as we talk about UCC, even the feminist thinkers, feminists are those thinkers who propagate equality between men and women both. Feminists never ask some special treatment for women. They talk about equality between men and women. Feminists, they have argued for so many of the years that what we need is not UCC but a gender just civil code. Okay, gender just civil code. Just UCC is not brought, is not needed, because guys, even in UCC many of the old notions can come, but a gender just law is needed. Okay, now as we talk about the present times, what is the present status of UCC and what should be done? So in this particular direction, guys, the Goa is the only state in India which is having a UCC. Now as we talk about UCC, guys, it is being provided that, see, as long as personal laws are not violating anybody's right, are they are treating everybody with equality, respect and concern, the personal laws can exist. And rather, in fact, apart from having a UCC, we are a diverse country. We should respect the diversity, including the cultural and religious diversity, and people should be given an opportunity to opt in or opt out of those regimes. Okay, for example, guys, we have today the laws that the people can get married under the their own religious personal laws. People can get married under their religious personal laws. Okay, but at the same time, there is also the Special Marriage Act. If a person doesn't wants to get married as per the religious customs, they can marry under the Special Marriage Act. So what can be done? People can opt out of the system. So therefore, we need to create a kind of a uniform civil code, kind of a law. People should be given an option that if they want to join it, they can, otherwise they might not. Now this particular thing will bring a kind of a voluntarism. If people will join as per their own wish, the confidence will be restored. So the point is that we need to focus on it. Moreover, the starting point should not be whether that India needs UCC or not, but the point is that how the gender justice is to be brought, how the gender just civil laws is to be brought. Moreover, in this particular direction, guys, it has also been provided by the Law Commission as well that we need to identify the provisions which are discriminatory, and we one by one, step by step, we need to deal with that. So this is something which can be an effective way forward in this direction. Now moving on and taking the next article from Hindu newspaper. Now the article reads, focus on Africa, the heart of the global south. Focus on Africa, the heart of global south. This article will see with respect to GS paper number 2, international relations. Okay, now what the article says, article says this particular thing, that we need to now focus on Africa, because now other countries, particularly the USA, China, they are lot fixated on Africa. Now India is the president at G20, and it is being said that India, through the presidency of G20, particularly propagate the cause of Africa. Now guys, we have become the voice of global south. We have become the voice of global south. Now what is global south? Global south are the countries who are either developing or who are either underdeveloped. So the world is divided in two parts, that is global north, which is about the developed countries, and global south, it is about the underdeveloped and less developed countries. Okay, though in south we also have the countries such as Australia and New Zealand. So it is not based on some kind of a geographical parameter, but a kind of a expression that we use. Now when we talk about Africa, the 54 countries of Africa, either they are developing or they are least developed, so therefore they are global south, and India will talk about global south's rights, and Africa's importance is should be raised here. Now it is being provided, guys, that basically we need to represent south, fine, we need to focus on external partnerships, particularly with Africa. Now other countries have started to focus on Africa. For example, USA now is increasing the relations with Africa. For example, recently the second US Africa summit was held in the Washington, and in this second US Africa summit several important decisions have been taken. For example, USA has recently announced that it will support African Union's plan to join G20 as a permanent member. So African Union will join G20 as a permanent member. Next thing, it is being said now, guys, under United Nations Security Council, we are talking about reforms. Why we know this particular thing? That there are the permanent 5 members in UNSC. That is, we have US, we have UK, we have China, we have Russia, and we have France. Now here there is a over representation of West. Africa's countries are not represented by any of these countries. So in United Nations Security Council, Africa wants its permanent membership. Okay, so USA is supporting that permanent membership, and by that particular thing, USA is cultivating the deep relations with Africa. Moreover, in this recent second US Africa summit that happened, US also promised that next year president and vice president of US will visit Africa. So this is something which further shows deepening of relation. Moreover, funding assistance is also being given by US to Africa. For example, it has been announced that the $10 million will be given by US to Africa for a program to boost the security capacity of African countries. Okay, moreover, it has been provided by USA that over the next 3 years, $55 billion will be invested in Africa for their capacity building, for their capacity enhancement. This is something that is being provided. Apart from US, China is also actively moving to cultivate deep relations with US. Now what has happened? First of all, economic relations, trade relations between China and Africa are increasing, and this particular thing can be seen in this particular fact that China today has become fourth largest investor in Africa continent. Okay, China is cultivating diplomatic relation through Belt and Road Initiative. China is trying to connect with Africa. Now recently in this particular direction, we also know this thing that forum on China Africa cooperation was recently held, and in this forum on China Africa cooperation, China has specifically tried to reach Africa on multiple scales. They are trying to increase economic relations, they are trying to increase trade relations, people to people ties, all they are trying to increase. Now basically, forum on China Africa cooperation, they are meeting once in every 3 years under this particular forum, alternatively in Beijing and in one of an African capital. Okay, now China is also, guys, hosting interministerial meets, regular interministerial meets, so that all the decisions that are taken at forum on China Africa cooperation, FOCAC, all these decisions can be implemented. The next thing, that China is also developing connectivity projects. For example, one China principle. What happened in the last meeting, the Africa actually supported the one China principle. Now what is this one China principle? Guys, one China principle simply is the Chinese position according to China. According to China, just a minute. According to China, one China principle means this particular thing, that mainland China and Taiwan are not two independent countries. China and Taiwan are the part of one mainland China, and there is only one China. This is one China principle. So this one China principle has also become a source of controversy in last few years. last actually 1 year actually, what happened, we saw this thing that US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi visited Taiwan without the permission of China, and the China became very irritated. So China is very sensitive on this one China principle, and Africa has supported one China principle. Then Africa is also supporting the connectivity and the developmental initiatives of China, for example, Belt and Road Initiative and Global Development Initiative. So we see that the warmness in relations is coming by this thing. Now, what is implications for India because of this particular thing? Guys, understand this thing that first of all, as we talk about the India-Africa relations, they are very much deep. Since the colonial times, we have cultivated African relations. In ancient times also, we had relations with the Africa. Moreover, both of India and Africa have subjugated by the colonial exploiters. So our relations are old and rich with Africa, richer than China as well as US. Okay, but we are not able to leverage that. We are not able to leverage that. In past 2 decades particularly, India had tried to enhance political relation, economic relation with Africa. And now for this particular thing, the continental meet where India is engaging with entire Africa, regional meet, bilateral meets have happened. Now, particularly in present times, since COVID-19 pandemic came, there is economic downturn, there is inflation, economic challenges that are going in the entire world. In this particular capacity, guys, understand this particular thing. Both the entire world is suffering with economic crisis. Now here, Africa is also getting impacted. So India can provide assistance to Africa. Particularly, guys, now as COVID-19 cases are increasing, there will be the renewed demand for vaccines. For such vaccine cooperation, India can help Africa. Okay, this is something. Moreover, the financial vulnerabilities of Africa should be reduced, should be arrested. Okay, and India can help. Now, the G20 presidency, which India has taken, it is an opportunity to ensure that African Union becomes a permanent member at G20, which USA has also supported. Moreover, we can also help Africa to achieve Africa Agenda of 2063. Now, what is Africa Agenda of 2063? So, Africa Agenda of 2063 is, it was taken around 2013, where it was believed that in next 50 years, that is by 2063, Africa wants to become a strategic power. Africa wants to become developed. So this is Africa's Agenda of 2063, and to achieve this agenda, we can help Africa. And by this particular thing, we can share deep and meaningful relations. The next issue that comes in this particular direction, guys, is this: India and US should come together and should work closely in Africa, because if USA and India will not come together, then China will take unfavorable favorable advantage in this particular spirit. Moreover, India also needs to enhance its one-to-one interactions with Africa. For example, when we talk about the India Africa Forum Summit, so the fourth India Africa Forum Summit is being planned, but it has not been held. We need to ensure that the fourth India Africa Summit should be held in 2024 at least, because last summit that was held was in 2015, and already around 9 years gap has come. So if we don't immediately organize India Africa Forum Summit, the India Africa relations will become a kind, this last summit will become a memory. So therefore we need to focus. So these are, guys, all the dimensions with respect to India Africa relations and potential is in this particular direction. Now moving to next article. Now this article is taken from the Hindu Business Line, a grassroots approach to pursuing SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. Okay, now this particular article will be important with respect to the GS paper number 2 government schemes. Why? Because one very important scheme, Antyodaya scheme of government, is being mentioned, and then sustainable developmental goals will also be used in GS paper number 3, issues of sustainable development. Okay, now let's take it. So basically, the article talks about that sustainable developmental goals. Now, first of all, guys, when we talk about sustainable developmental goals, these are 17 goals. 17 goals. Within these 17 goals, there are 169 targets that have been taken by the world countries in 2015. And these sustainable developmental goals are to be achieved by 2030. Okay. Now, the countries, they are trying to achieve these sustainable developmental goals, and from time to time, they also submit their review reports as what achievement they have carried on sustainable developmental goals. So basically, recently the United Nations 2022 2022 United Nations report on SDG has been released, which focuses on the progress and challenges for achieving the sustainable developmental goals, inclusive growth, development. They have talked about this particular thing. Now, moving on. Basically, when we talk about India, guys, India has accepted wholeheartedly the 17 sustainable developmental goals, okay, at the policy level. Moreover, in this particular direction, guys, India had started to pivot their policies, their schemes to meet the sustainable developmental goal target. India has also timely submitted voluntary national reviews in 2017 and 2020. Now see, in sustainable developmental goals, as I told you, 17 goals have been taken, 169 targets have been there. So before achieving the target, we also need to do a stock taking exercise that where we are landing today. For example, hunger, extreme hunger is to be eliminated by 2030. So for elimination of hunger, first of all, we need to see that what are the hunger level right now in India. So therefore, voluntary national reviews are carried, and for the voluntary national review, the report have been submitted by India in 2017 as well as 2020. Next thing is that we are also focusing on SDG localization. SDG localization. Now, what we understand by SDG localization? Guys, localization means that we will try to ensure that how SDGs are to be implemented at local level. Now, understand this thing. Every country has its own challenges. Every country has its own scenarios. So therefore, they will be tweaking SDGs little bit, and they will ensure that how SDGs at the local level needs to be ensured. So in 2030, we have focused on localization of SDGs. Now for this particular thing, guys, we are recognizing the customized solutions, local solutions that can be brought. Now in this particular direction, basically India has already started the localization process, and transformation of aspirational districts program in 2018 got started. Now the aspirational districts, so there are 112 plus districts which have one of the poorest socio-economic indicators, and in order to bring change these socio-economic indicators, government is going to use many of the schemes. Okay, existing schemes will be used particularly here through convergence. What is convergence, guys? Many of the schemes are catering to one particular problem, they will be converged together. Okay, so aspirational district transformation of aspirational district program has been brought where these districts will be focused. Now when we talk about the localization, that I told you that the local communities needed to be taken in account, taken with the local factors, we need to bring the suitable changes. So as we talk about localization, at the level of gram panchayat, a lot of decentralization will be done so that the localization is carried. In this particular direction, local indicator framework has also been generated at the gram panchayat level. Now what has happened? Out of these, we have 17 sustainable developmental goals. So these 17 SDGs have been converted in 9 themes. And these 17 SDGs have been subsumed, okay, in the 9 themes. And on these 9 themes, gram panchayats have actually started working. So bottom to top approach will be taken up for SDG. Localization, guys, again I'm talking SDG localization means that number one, local communities need to be involved, and number two, for that particular thing, suitable changes fine also needed to be carried. Now moving on, so basically as we talk about the sustainable developmental goals, in achieving them there are many challenges that we have. Number one, lack of awareness and coordination. First of all, even many of the agencies, for example the panchayats at the block level administration, many of them, they don't have awareness about SDG goals. Many government agencies, they don't have coordination with each other. Government departments, they don't have coordination, awareness on that particular part. Even the elected panchayat members, they don't have awareness, people don't have awareness. Secondly, we are not using technology efficiently and effectively, which can actually help in meeting SDG targets. So these are certain issues that we have. Then the next challenge that comes here is that we lack institutionalized framework. Okay, there is a lack of streamlined institutional framework. We don't have such platforms, such schemes which will ensure or which will provide us the real real status of these SDG goals. Now government has actually started one very good scheme, that is Mission Antyodaya. Okay, so guys, understand this thing. So Antyodaya are also there. Antyodaya households are there in National Food Security Act. These are the poorest of the poor people. That Antyodaya households are different. This is Mission Antyodaya. Now, Mission Antyodaya has been brought by the government to ensure good governance, to ensure last mile delivery of government schemes. Now, Antyodaya will be bringing all the concerned ministries together. Antyodaya will be focusing on convergence of the schemes. Is it clear or not? Convergence. Okay, for example, guys, when we talk about the rural areas, so we have the Ministry of Rural Development. We have the Ministry of Rural Development. Then, guys, we have the Ministry of Jal Shakti. Ministry of Jal Shakti. Is it clear or not? Fine. We have Ministry of Health. Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. Now, these are the ministries. Now, when we talk about the development of rural areas, we need the Ministry of Rural Development. Drinking water also is a very big problem. Ministry of Jal Shakti is needed. Health and family welfare is to be important. So basically, at many number of times, the ministries are to be brought together. They are to be converged together. Many schemes are to be converged together. So Mission Antyodaya will focus as how convergences can be carried for effective implementation of government schemes. This is something that is there. Now, however, in the government's plan, in government's design of achieving SDG through local factors, we have not accounted one particular thing, that is we have not been able to get proper funding because there is a tied nature of funds. Now, what is the meaning of tied nature of fund? Basically, guys, there can be two types of fund: tied funds and untied funds. Untied and tied funds. Okay, so untied funds are those funds which can be used for any purpose. Is it clear or not? Those are the untied funds. You can use money for any purpose. Tied fund means that you can use money only for the purpose for which it has been allotted, it has been given. So most of the funds are the tied type of funds. Tied type of funds. Now understand this particular thing, guys, that one size fit all is not an optimum solution. Kerala might have different problem, Haryana might have different problem. So if you are giving the tied funds for one particular thing, they will not be very much effective. You need to give flexibility to the states. Fine. Now in this particular direction, certain way forwards can be suggested. Now, when we talk about the localization at the village level, bringing village level communities, the hand holding from district is very much important. District administration should support the rural administration. The next thing is that soft power. Okay, basically, guys, understand this particular thing, that when we talk about attaining SDGs, okay, we need to sensitize the masses. We need to generate awareness in the masses. We need to sensitize the masses. We need to sensitize the elected representatives. So masses, elected representatives are to be sensitized. Okay. Now the local cultures of soft power must be harnessed. Let's understand this particular thing, guys. Basically, when we talk about today, there are many challenges that we have on developmental front, but in the but in old traditions that we have, okay, we have actually solved these particular problems. For example, guys, today I'm just giving you one different kind of example to make you understand this particular point. Today we say that patriarchy is a big problem in India. Women are subjugated, women are dominated, but in past we know this particular thing, that women were given were given a big role in governance. Women, okay, we know this particular thing, that basically women equality has been a kind of a theme in the ancient societies of India, okay, particularly in the early Vedic ages. We see this particular thing. So basically, the local cultures, they have certain practices, they already have certain traditions which we need to harness. Next, villages, panchayats, they need to be given a capacity as how they can generate their own resources, okay, why? Because for the implementation of SDG, money is needed, and how they can generate resources, that is to be taken up. For example, fallow lands, empty lands, they can be converted into parking lot, community hall, nurseries. Fine, this is something that can be taken up. The next thing that comes here is that we also need to establish workshops. We also need to establish the workshops with multilateral institutions. For example, United Nations Development Program is there. Fine, with the UNDP, with the block and district level officials. Fine, self-help groups. Workshops needs to be carried for the panchayat so that they can learn best of the best practices. Second thing is that basically there is also need that we need to train there is a need for training the elected representatives. Okay, so we institutional modules. Okay, module for governance, module for community service needs to be prepared, and on these modules the representatives needed to be trained. In this particular direction, Kerala is also has also developed the dedicated training institutes, that is Kila. So these Kila institutes of Kerala are training elected representatives that can be taken. The next thing that comes here is that, guys, private sector should also be robed. Private sector should also be robed. Okay, so basically, if you take the example, Sansad Adarsh Gram Yojana is there. Under the Sansad Adarsh Gram Yojana, an MP has to adopt the village in his constituency. Fine. So a Sansad has to adopt a village, and that particular village is to be developed as a model village, so that the other nearby villages can also aspire, can learn from that. So this is the Sansad Adarsh Gram Yojana. In this particular way, the private sector can also adopt the villages and can focus on their development. Now anyhow the private sector, okay, they have to spend money as a part of CSR, corporate social responsibility. Now CSR expenditure they have to commit as mentioned under section 135 of the Companies Act. Okay, so under it they can also adopt the villages and can focus on their development. Then guys, the next thing that comes here is that there is also need of streamlining the institutional framework. Now we need know this particular thing, guys, that basically, instead of being tied to central and state funds, the village panchayat should be incentivized to generate their own fund. We have seen that how that funds can be generated. The empty lands can be converted in parking lots. In this particular way, many other revenue streams can be identified by the panchayats. Many of the village level taxes, okay, or many such kind of collections can be done. Next is that we need to focus on creating a dashboard that fetches from block level data feeding centers on lifts. Now, what is, guys, the lifts? Okay, so basically lifts are local indicator framework, local framework at the village level. So how they're actually performing for that particular thing, we need to ensure that data time to time updated information is being given. The next thing that is being provided, that we need to create a tiered structure. For example, at village level, at every village level, we need to create the Sustainable Developmental Goal cell, SDG cell. This SDG cell will consist the political representatives, elected representatives, and the permanent executive. Okay. Then there are the line department. Okay, guys, what are the line department? So we have different ministries, and in the ministries there are multiple departments in one ministries. So let's say for an X goal, this department is working in ministry A, one department is working in ministry B, one department is working in ministry C. So all the departments who are working in the same line, they are called as line department. Their representative should be there into the SDG cell. Then leaders with mass reach, leaders who can influence people, they should also be there. Fine, so that they can ensure the coordination. Okay, fine. After that, guys, they will also be given the power to select the theme on which they want to carry the development. They should be given uh, in the awareness generation, their role is also needed to be leveraged. Okay, this is something that can be done. Okay, after that, guys, what happened? By their consensus, the village panchayat developmental plans are to be developed, and these village panchayat developmental plans should be compliant to SDG, and these village panchayat development plans will help in achieving SDG. That at the level of block, okay, there needs to be one coordinator. Okay, there need to be one facilitator. Okay, now this for coordinator or facilitator will ensure that different villages, they have different village panchayat developmental plans in different villages. These SDG cells are there. Are they working efficiently? Okay, are there any challenges or these kind of things should be focused upon. Then after that, there should be a district cell and project director. Fine, district cell and project director of institution formation, and capacity building can be set up. Okay, in this particular direction, guys, at the district level also there needs to be a director, project director, who ensure that all the villages and all the blocks are aligned. Okay, then there should be at a state level steering committee, which should be headed by chief secretary. Now in this state level steering committee, the members from the planning department, okay, other different training institutes, fine, all these departments should be there. So at multiple levels, number one, the level of village, village level, then block level, then district level, and that state level. We need to have the institutions which will ensure the implementation of SDG. Okay, this is guys all about this particular article. Now moving to next article, the suitable officer. Now this particular article will be seen with respect to the reforms in bureaucracy. Reforms in bureaucracy. Okay. Now, basically, guys, we when we talk about this article starts up by giving reference with respect to the ease of doing business, economic reforms in India. Now, see this particular thing that we have come out with Make in India project. We have come out with Make in India project. Okay, we have also focused on ease of doing business index and ease of doing policies. Basically, the prime minister believed this particular thing, that problem of unemployment can only be solved by generating more and more employment, and that more and more employment needs to be generated by roping up a manufacturing sector. So by the growth of manufacturing sector, okay, the unemployment can be reduced, the poverty's problem can be solved. Okay, now, so basically it has been said that if we want to promote manufacturing sector, we need to ensure this particular thing, that India should not be a difficult country for doing manufacturing, for doing business. We need to change India from being a difficult country to a country which has a lot of ease of doing business. We need to make India an attractive destination for manufacturing as well as an attractive destination for investment. Now, this is something that happened. The point has come that though we have tried to improve ease of doing business, we have tried to facilitate the business environment in India, but actually what has happened, they are not successful. Because they are not successful, manufacturing till now has not shown any significant increase in the investments. This entire sector has not been developed. Now, understand this particular thing, that now COVID-19 global events such as the inflation, etc., they had come. Okay, now we see this particular thing, that it is apparent that the policy intentions were good, but the implementation had not yielded the result. So now, what are the reasons that the implementation is not effective? There are inadequate knowledge and skill sets in the implementing officers, lack of motivation in the implementing officers, weak supervision and monitoring in the implementing officers who are in charge on implementing Make in India, who are charged in implementing the ease of doing business. These officers have multiple problems. Knowledge sets are weak, motivation is not there, supervision is not there. Okay. Now, in this particular capacity, guys, basically we find this thing that often the officers who are in charge, they are not private sector friendly also. Attitudinal problem is there. Now, understand this particular thing, that effective implementation of all government schemes has become complex. Why? Because traditionally we only trusted the public sector, we distrust the private sector. Okay, but this attitude has to be now changed, because capitalism has to be used. Okay, fine, they have to be used for bringing more rapid growth. Today we see this particular thing, the systems of checks and balances, they have been inherited from the Britishers, and they were based on the distrust of the civil servants towards the private sector, and this particular attitude is still carried. So today there is a need for bringing deep seated reforms, and these reforms are needed in changing the civil servants attitude, changing the bureaucracy's attitude towards the private sector. They need to be more favorable. Now, when we talk about the recruitment of bureaucrats, we say this particular thing, that recruitment system is based on the merit, where only the high quality high quality aspirants are entering in the bureaucracy. But it doesn't mean that if a person is academically bright, if a person is academically bright, that particular person will be able to do the desired job in bureaucracy. Fine. For example, enhancing the ease of doing business. A person is intelligent doesn't mean that person will be visionary with respect to changing the investment scenario in India. So basically, when we talk about improving ease of doing business, it requires a specialized knowledge. It requires a specialized experience, which many number of times the civil servants might not have. Okay, we need to achieving global levels of cost and quality competitiveness. For this particular thing, some specific skill sets are needed. Is it clear or not? Fine. It has been provided that officers working in areas which are relevant to policy making, okay, they should understand that how a lot of procedures, they impact the competitiveness of industry. They need to identify the laws which are making the process difficult. Okay, they need to identify the laws, those laws needed to be removed, and they need to create a seamless system. Now this is only possible if civil servants have good domain knowledge. So guys, civil services always have been a generalist type of service. So we need to move from this nature of generalist service. We need to have a domain specialist, experts in manufacturing sector, in tech sector, all these things. Okay. Now, when we talk about, guys, India, we find this particular thing that because the meritorious civil servants are being adopted and they are being made charge in almost all the decision making matters, but they might not have the skill sets. So basically it has prevented the right man from being posted in the right job. So IAS officers has failed in the area of economic development. We need today specialists. So how this particular entire system can be reformed? In this particular direction, guys, certain suggestions have been given. Number one suggestion is that we need to create a wing. A wing can be created in the Department of Personnel and Training, and a wing can be created as well as a wing to the states. And this particular wing should be manned by the professionals in human resource development, and these HRD manager, human resource development managers, should select the officers who have attitude that they can bring a change in ease of doing business environment. So the people, the aspirants, the civil servants having such attitude will be trained, and then the civil servants having such attitude, they will be picked, and then they will be trained to implement the policy, to ensure how the ease of doing business for manufacturing sector, how the industrial development is to be brought. Then next thing that comes here is that we need to de-link the salary scales from job responsibilities. Okay, so as a person is promoted, as a person becomes a senior, more and more responsibilities for more and more kind of work is given, and the more the responsibilities a person is having, more different type of works that a person is having, on that particular thing their seniority, their salaries are based. So it should not be based on this, rather it should be based on performance as a parameter. Right? So responsibilities should not be there, performance as a parameter should be adopted. Okay, so guys, this is all about this particular session, and with this we come to an end to the today's session. Guys, I hope that you have liked this particular video, and if you have do like the video, please do hit the like button, please to subscribe to the channel. Now we'll be meeting tomorrow at the same time. Till then, guys, please take care of yourselves. And guys, the PDF of this particular session can be downloaded from the Telegram channel Unacademy Sahil Saini. So you can download it. Moreover, the link for the channel of Telegram has been given in description box in YouTube. So from there you can find the link. That is all, guys, for today. If you have any doubt, you may ask your doubts. Okay. A very good evening to Priyanka, Shubdeep, Pandi Santosh, Akashdeep, inspiring, Priyanka again, Madhusmita. Okay, any doubt, guys, here? Okay, fine, guys. Take care of yourselves. Now will be tomorrow